What's up guys? We got some interesting news today. They are announcing a new mission reward champion, kind of like Ramantu, and similar to him, this is clearly meant to be a very good champion. So let's actually look what they said and talk about it. But I think this champion has some promise for both PvP and PvE, so it seems kind of interesting, especially since he's a defense scaling champion that does self-defense buff, so I'm probably gonna use him myself. But hey folks, we got some news about progress missions. We'll add separate new branch missions that will become available simultaneously with the missions that unlock Ramantu Drake's Blood, meaning that once you completed the missions to get Arbiter, you'll be able to get Ramantu and start a new branch at the same time. There will be a total of 180 new progress missions divided into 3 groups of 60. The new mission will focus on following features: Live Arena, Cursed City, Hydra, Champion Awakening, Gear Ascension, and so on. And of course, just as always, you'll be able to receive various rewards for completing each task. Once you complete all 180 new missions, you can claim the main reward in the form of a brand new champion, Marius the Gallant. Now, to be clear, Live Arena, Cursed City, Hydra, Champion Awakening, those sound extremely tough missions. Hopefully I will be able to do it, but I'm pretty sure these are meant to be almost impossible for most people, and there will probably be some time-gated things like there was with Ramantu. So maybe we won't be able to instantly do them. I'm not quite sure. Maybe some people will be able to instantly do if there is no time-gated ones, but we don't know. It's definitely going to be hard though, so don't just assume that you're instantly gonna get this champion. It might be in a month if you're super endgame, it might be in 6 months or 1 year if nobody is able to get it before that. And let's actually see how they describe their champion. So it's a Skinwalker's legendary defense void champion, all of which sounds kind of good. Marius will be a valuable addition to your arena roster while shining bright in the battles against Hydra as well. He has a strong AoE attack on A1, empowered by rare Enfeebled debuff, weakening the enemy team, and spiced up with some nice buffs on his A3. The immunity to turn meter reduction and decreased speed debuffs makes this horse unstoppable, which makes Marius a powerful asset for both PvE and PvP content. Now actually, let's talk about his skills. Okay, I had to double check so that you can actually see the entire thing and I don't mess this up again. But A1 attacks all enemies and it boosts up to 50% chance to place Enfeeble debuff for 1 turn. And you might be thinking that what does Enfeeble debuff actually do? Because it's a pretty rare debuff and you might not have encountered it at all. Wait, which skill has it? This champion has it, but well, basically what it does is that you can't critical strike. Where can I find it? Surely it's here somewhere, right? It's the one that you meet on Phantom Shogun boss, which makes it incredibly hard because you can't actually crit on the boss and you keep, oh okay, there it is, and you keep weak hitting on it, which gives it stacks and makes it do more damage, and you can't deal any damage to it. Champions under Enfeebled debuff can only land weak hits unless stated otherwise in skill description. So of course that is a terrifying debuff, not something that you want to get in PvP. Luckily we do have polymorph at least. Wait, I hope you guys were even able to see that debuff, or was I in the way of that the entire time? Anyway, so he has the Enfeeble on A1. It's only 1 turn duration though, but it is AoE and 50% chance. So this is gonna be pretty annoying and proc all the time. And yeah, it's AoE A1, Probably not amazing multiplier, but who knows, it's a very hard to get champion, and they have made other similar champions like this very strong on purpose, so I wouldn't be surprised even if the multiplier was pretty good. And of course you want to take into account for PvP that we got the buff on Cruelty Blessing, which makes champions like this a lot more interesting than they used to be. He doesn't have Ignore Defense or anything like that on his kit, but if we can get a blessing for him, and I hope there's a blessing for him in the missions, they really should at least give him a 4-star or maybe even a 6-star blessing in the missions. I think that would be super interesting. But if you have 6-star cruelty, you will decrease the enemy defense by 4% per hit, up to 40%, and you're doing AoE A1, so you can get a good amount of damage that way, even if he doesn't have any natural damage increase. And his A2 is a triple hitter, AoE triple hitter, attacks all enemies 3 times, each hit decreases the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn, and each of those hits can proc cruelty. So if you just do this once, you're already reducing their defense by 12% if you have cruelty at 6-star. By the way, additional note that they did confirm that you can land the Enfeeble debuff on bosses, so of course it's gonna be used for PvE as well, probably for Hydra. I mean, he can be used for Hexet and the Cruelty Blessing for sure on Hydra as well, but I'm sure other content creators like Deadwood Jedi know much more about that and they will talk about it better, so I'm gonna focus on the PvP aspect. But I think probably most people are thinking him more for PvE, but I think he's gonna be interesting for PvP as well. But so both the A1 and A2 are AoE nukes, and they both have kind of utility that synergizes together, that the A2 decreases the duration of enemy buffs by 1 turn, so when it does it 3 times and it's 100% chance, it's gonna fully deplete any normal buffs that they might have. Of course, Stone Skin has 50% chance to get protected, so it might not completely remove it always, but I guess it can do it as well, which makes it very interesting for PvP. Like, you can first do the A2 and then get the Enfeeble debuffs on A1, or you can just use him to open your other CC champions up for debuffing the enemy, and at least on his decrease buff duration skill, he can't get polymorphed like you might with Lady Mikage or Wukong buff strips, so it will add some additional utility. Okay, and let's talk about his other skills first, but he doesn't have any innate tankiness on his kit, even though he's a defense scaling champion, so you're still gonna have to pair him with some kind of survivability, but he does have very interesting utility for live arena at least. I'm not quite sure yet if he's gonna be relevant in classic arena, but maybe. So on the A3, places 50% increase accuracy buff and 60% increase defense buff on all allies for 3 turns, then places stun debuff on enemy with the highest turn meter for 1 turn and grants an extra turn. Now this is especially good for him since he is a defense scaling champion and might actually be a nuker and not just a support, so he can do the self-defense buff, and those plebs like me who don't have Siphi, you don't necessarily have to pair him with Siphi, though probably if you have Siphi you would pair them together anyway in live arena, but it does give you a lot of options, and maybe you can use this champion even if the enemy team picks Siphi and so on. And one thing to note that the A2 is only 3 turn cooldown, while the A3 is 4 turn, but it does grant you extra turn, so he's gonna rotate his skills very fast, and that can be very oppressive in live arena. especially if you're using Siphi or some kind of speed team and outspeeding the enemy. It doesn't really leave them with any chance to actually have uptime with their buffs. And maybe you could pair this champion with, let's say, Tormin, that he does the buff strip, but he can get polymorphed, and he also does the defense buff and other annoying things, and then Tormin can also have a field day when enemy doesn't have immunity buffs and so on, and then they both can be spamming their cruelty and decreasing the enemy defense, and even if they don't have any amazing multipliers or ignore defense on their nukes, they will still have enough damage to kill the enemy team. Now, we don't know what his multipliers actually are. They might be very high, but I wouldn't count on it. I think if he had something like between 3 and 4 multiplier on the A1, that would be very good, but it might even be a lot less than that. Often these type of skills have very low multiplier. Let me double check because I can't recall out of top of my head, but I think Tormin A1 might have only like 1.8 or... Yeah, Tormin A1 has 2 multiplier, and most of the champions with AoE A1, the multiplier isn't incredible, except maybe Garo. But yeah, that seems very interesting. And then he has a passive as well. This champion is immune to turn meter reduction. This champion is immune to turn meter reduction effects and decrease speed debuffs. Whenever an enemy changes form or attempts to decrease this champion's turn meter, counterattacks using this champion's default skill. By the way, that would be super cancer if you pair this with Stone skin set. You could go for a full support on him and maybe do that as well. It would be kind of annoying, but obviously he's gonna be a counter of sorts against primal champions. Especially something that comes into my mind is Lady Mikage, who is definitely one of the best champions and maybe even the best primal champion for live arena, to be honest. One of the best ones at least. But usually at the start of the fight, she's gonna change her form instantly. You could open with the ally attack, but usually you change the form and stun the enemy. And yeah, he's gonna counterattack when Mikage changes form, and then every time Mikage takes a turn on her second form, he's gonna decrease the turn meter of enemy with highest attack. Oh, it's only this champion's turn meter. I guess it's not gonna work against him. Yeah, the Mikage passive turn meter is only on the champion with highest attack, and chances are that this defense scaling nuker isn't gonna be your highest attack, but the A3 as well that stuns the enemy, it will also decrease turn meter, so he's gonna counterattack on that, and he's gonna counterattack when Mikage takes a turn, and that's gonna synergize super well with the cruelty set as well, which makes me very excited for this champion, and he might be my best defense scaling nuker. I really hope that they make an event for him where we can get a blessing, at least 4-star, but it would be super nice to get a 6-star blessing on champion for once. If they don't do an event like that, I'm most likely never gonna get 6-star blessing on him, but I really hope they do, and it will be cool, and I think it's totally plausible that there will be some kind of soul for him in the missions. But yeah, that is the free champion. It's probably going to be super tough to get. I don't want to speculate too much what you're actually gonna do with him, even though I already kind of did a little bit because I couldn't help myself, but I think he's gonna be interesting for live arena. For classic arena, I'm not quite sure because he's not tanky, he isn't something that you will use in offense, I don't think, unless you use him as a buff stripper, but maybe that will be a thing, but at least for classic, no, at least for live arena, I'm sure he's gonna be used. And if you guys get any good ideas on your head after reading the kit, then tell me in the comments, but my initial impression was just to use him as a nuker with self buff, maybe pair him with Tormin or other CC champions, and Anyway, that's it for this video. I didn't want to make it too long, but I'm excited for this champion and hope you guys are as well.